Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for Saturday's edition of Alaska Weather on the 7th day of August, 1 week into the month now, 2021. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service. And up first, let's see what comes up here. Fire danger graphic, and almost call it the no fire danger graphic. The area up there over the Yukon Flats are actually right around along the Porcupine River there, down to where it meets the Yukon River. Barely into the high category there, a real significant drop from what it was yesterday, and that's about it as far as any fire danger goes around the state, with the cool temperatures, rainfall occurring now over, and what's expected to come in. Fire danger isn't really going to be much of a factor over the next probably week. So moving on to the hazardous weather graphics, there are no watches, warnings, or advisories out around the state for tonight through tomorrow, probably tomorrow night possibly. So looking pretty good. No big storms coming in, although there's a pretty good storm. There will be marine warnings coming in, some gale warnings showing up in the marine forecasts that we'll take a look at. And then let's see, for the satellite imagery, you can see band of moisture there, Tanana Valley, eastern Tanana Valley, northeast interior, and extending back along and just south of the Brooks Range into the northern Seward Peninsula and the Bering Strait, and a fairly good amount of precipitation along that band up there in the north. For example, Tin City had about half an inch in the last 12 hours of precipitation up in that area, and coming back around or up at Kiana, about a quarter of an inch of rain, and Ambler picked up half an inch of precipitation, while Bettles had about 4/10 of an inch. And across the upper Tanana Valley 40-mile country, they're running anywhere from 1 to 3/10 of an inch of precipitation, but heavier amounts in the eastern Alaska Range. The Sitnik Glacier had just under an inch in the last 24 hours there, with rain down into the Denali Highway area, but 70 is pretty hard to come by today. In fact, just reaching 70 degrees at mid-afternoon. Let's see, it was at Northway and Gulkana were the only two areas I saw with 70 that reached into the 70s today. So definitely cooler and wetter conditions than what we had earlier on. Panhandle, showers diminishing for the most part, tapering off. Still some lingering shower activity within the last couple hours at Sitka, but really tapering off and ending everywhere else. Juneau and those areas. The next system bringing rain and gusty winds to the Alaska Peninsula, and that's starting to spread up into Kodiak Island, kind of just surges of moisture breaking off from the main precipitation area there and scooting northeastward. So not too much rain yet into Kodiak and on the Alaska Peninsula. Gusty winds picking up to about, southeast 35-mile-an-hour winds at Port Hayden, and on up to King Salmon there, as well as out toward, Platinum. Also had winds gusting from the southeast to about 30 miles an hour. Not too terribly strong, not really gale force as well, but definitely in the small craft advisory category. And then the main low back just north of Fox Islands there, and we got rain and fog and low clouds with some areas of IFR covering much of the southeast Bering Sea areas. And on the chart today, that warm front, not quite the rain, not quite up into Kodiak Island yet. It will be shortly, next several hours, but that's going to be the trend here. Definitely this evening, thickening, lowering clouds, increasing rainfall chances will just become flat out rain here as the night wears on into Kodiak. And same thing into Bristol Bay, maybe a little to lesser extent with that southeast wind flow coming off the Aleutian Range. But showers southwest interior, scattered showers south central Alaska, maybe Prince William Sound. Precipitation continues there over the eastern interior areas south of the Yukon River. or south of the Yukon Flats, I should say. That band of moisture continues. Light rain or showers there just south of the Brooks Range from the Kobuk Valley in across Kotzebue and into the northern Seward Peninsula areas. But for the most part, kind of a break there in the Gulf of Alaska with ridging and just a chance of showers for the Panhandle. It'll be very more miss than hit for the showers for the southeast coast. Best chance will be up north of that weak trough. And then for tomorrow, that front right up across Kodiak Island. So in the afternoon, winds will diminish during the afternoon hours once the front gets by, with moderate to briefly heavy amounts of rain will also diminish as well and start shifting up into southern Cook Inlet, southern coast of the Kenai Peninsula. Wet periods of rain across all of the southwest interior into the Kuskokwim Valley, and actually pushing up, trying to get up into the lower Yukon River Valley area. It'll be a drier day, but still a chance of showers there for the upper Tanana Valley areas to the eastern Alaska Range. But definitely a lot less of that, and dry conditions for the northern half of the state. Look for a chance of rain and snow showers to push into the central Arctic coast. And then for Sunday, that front takes off to the northeast, kind of a separate low develops. There are 1,000 millibars, so rain, moderate, briefly heavy at times, North Gulf Coast into Yakutat to maybe Icy Bay, with rain, lighter amounts, but on the increase over the northern Panhandle and along the central coast. Stays dry down to the south, but mostly cloudy. And the interior, southern half of Alaska, cloudy with areas of rain or showers and maybe some isolated thunderstorms widely scattered could develop during the afternoon, but really not that conducive to setting off any widespread lightning action. Otherwise, the northern interior, partly to mostly cloudy with low clouds and fog, Arctic coast, and still breezy, but not as breezy there for the northwest coast on down through the Strait to the St. Lawrence Island area. Light winds over the southern Bering Sea with a chance of rain. And then for Monday, that stronger low kicks up to the northeast, good southwest flow, and 987 millibar low will bring stronger winds and heavier rain into Kodiak Island overnight Sunday night into Monday morning. And then as the low center moves right over the island, winds will drop off and the rainfall rates will diminish as well, but definitely IFR conditions in that pattern. And again, rain, clouds, cool, chilly temperatures for much of the central and southern part of the state, right on down to the North Gulf Coast, with increasing wind and rain becoming again moderate to briefly heavy in the afternoon toward evening. Increasing rain for the northern Panhandle, and then definitely some heavy rain coming in as that shifts off to the northeast Monday night into Tuesday. Otherwise, back out to the west, not too bad. Scattered showers, southern Bering Sea, possible sunshine, Adak, Atka, maybe the Fox Islands. And looking at lows tonight, 30s north of the Alaska Range, mid-40s to the south, lower 50s Tanana Valley, lower 50s much of the southwest interior, upper 40s in the Bering Sea, and 50 to 55 for the Panhandle, 48 to 52 for south central Alaska, Kodiak Island. Highs tomorrow, again, 70s, very hard to come by now. In fact, looks like mid to upper 60s for the central eastern interior, and lower 60s out toward the Kobuk Valley. 50s mid to upper southern Alaska, Kuskokwim Valley, and 55 to 62 maybe for the Panhandle, near 60 Kodiak Island. Lows on Monday morning, lower to mid 30s, Brooks Range to the Arctic coast, 45 to 52 for the interior, mostly in the upper 40s to near 50s south central Alaska. Lower to mid 50s, southern Panhandle, otherwise everyone else out west in the 40s. Highs on Monday, again even cooler, lower to mid 60s, otherwise in the 50s, 40 to 45 on the Arctic coast, mid 50s over the Bering Sea, and 60 to 62 at best for the southeast coast.
Hello everyone, I'm meteorologist Cody Moore with the National Weather Service in Juneau, and I wanted to give a forecast update regarding the heavy rain potential for next week. Now, we've fine-tuned some of the forecast details regarding timing and placement and rainfall amounts with each system coming through, so I wanted to just talk about that. Currently, we have 3 systems that are going to affect the region next week. The first one comes in Sunday evening and goes through Monday morning. The second one comes in Monday evening and lasts through Tuesday morning. We have a slight break on Tuesday, and then we have a third system, potentially the strongest of the 3, that pushes into the northeast Gulf Coast on Wednesday and then slides southeast towards the northern Panhandle through the rest of the week. Now, the main concern with the systems through the week will be the flooding potential by Friday. It's typical to get rain this time of year, especially we're heading into August. It's our rainy season. But the fact that we're getting 3 systems back to back to back with heavy rain, and some areas could see their monthly total rainfall within a week, that's what gives us reason for concern, at least by the end of the week with that 3rd system coming in, that there could be some flooding impacts, especially along the northeast Gulf Coast and the northern Panhandle. At the same time, it looks like the southern Panhandle is going to dry out Wednesday through the end of the week. So while the northern Panhandle, we're looking for flooding impacts, the southern Panhandle, we're looking at much drier weather. So depending on where you live, you're going to get, vastly different weather conditions. There is a little bit of uncertainty regarding the exact rainfall amounts and locations of the heaviest rain by the end of the week, especially with this 3rd system, but that is something we're looking into, and we're going to fine-tune the details in the coming days.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on to flying weather Sunday morning, IFR, Central Eastern Arctic Coast, and about Shishmaref there through the Bering Strait, St. Lawrence Island, and then St. Matthew Island, the Pribilof into the Central Aleutians IFR, and pretty good IFR right into the southwest coast, into the Kuskokwim Valley, and Bristol Bay to just near King Salmon to Igigik, and southern Cook Inlet, and the Coast Range up to Kenai Peninsula, western Prince William Sound, and then some IFR along the Alaska Range, maybe the White Mountains there north of Fairbanks. Otherwise, not too bad in the interior. Some VFR, marginal VFR and IFR for the Panhandle. And for the afternoon, Sunday afternoon, that mostly IFR in northern southeast coast there, with marginal VFR breaking out to VFR, Prince of Wales Island, Ketchikan, and Annette, over toward possibly Stewart. Otherwise, IFR, South Central Bering Sea, Adak, Atka, and the north shores of Unmak and Unalaska Island. IFR for the Pribilofs, areas of IFR right up to the Bering Strait. Improving over the southwest interior as a first batch of moisture shifts off to the northeast. So we got IFR lingering, Susitna Valley, western Alaska Range, becoming VFR, southern Cook Inlet, Fognak Island, Kamishak Bay, and areas of IFR, marginal VFR, Copper River Basin, Madanuska, Susitna Valley, and VFR, Brooks Range into the Kobuk, Noatak Valleys, northwest coast, and the northern Koyukuk Valley, Yukon Flats area. And then for Monday morning, good IFR, North Slope, Brooks Range right out to the Arctic coast there. And then some VFR south of the Brooks Range into the Seward Peninsula, northern Norton Sound and Kotzebue Sound there up to about Kivalina. IFR through the Strait, St. Lawrence Island, Yukon Delta coast, Pribilofs once again, right on down to the Aleutians, and then either side of that bracketed by marginal VFR, IFR, southwest Kodiak Island, up across northeast Bristol Bay and across southern Kuskokwim Valley, Auckland Mountains, and then the Alaska Range. And some of that spilling into the central interior there. In fact, a pretty good band extending into the central interior and a little beyond. IFR, Talkeetnas, and the Madanuska Valley, it looks like, and the Coast Range of the North Gulf Coast into the mountains there, into the Wrangles as well. IFR for the Panhandle. Monday afternoon, mostly IFR southeast coast, although marginal VFR on the north coast. IFR there from the North Gulf Coast and the mountains, marginal along the coast, Kenai Peninsula marginal, some areas of VFR, Copper River Basin, northern Cook Inlet, Susitna Valley, and some marginal VFR right along the Alaska Range and back into the VFR, Kuskokwim Valley to the Kuskokwim Mountains, then back to marginal, Kuskokwim Delta, Yukon Delta, Bristol Bay, IFR along the coast, and Eastern Bering Sea IFR, marginal out west except for Adak IFR, marginal VFR North Slope with the IFR mostly off the Arctic coast. And for passes, Anatuvik marginal VFR becomes VFR in the afternoon, and same thing for Adigan. Not too bad of a day, some marginal VFR to start in the early morning hours, becoming VFR for most of the day. Lake Clark and Merrill IFR, same forecast for rainy IFR, and for windy, call it marginal, kind of a marginal day there, especially on the southern entrance. Isabel IFR becoming marginal. And Mentasta, occasional marginal VFR. Portage, Tanita, marginal VFR as well at times. And for Portage, IFR, Chilcoot and White, IFR, Taking a look at the freezing levels, that cold pool has shifted well off to the east there, so 6,000 to 8,000 feet north slope. And into the interior, 10,000 feet North Gulf Coast, Northern Panhandle, 12,000 feet, and then cooler conditions out over the Bering Sea at about 4,000 feet. Icing, look for considerable moderate rime icing with that big slug of moisture coming up from the southwest, roughly from Prince William Sound and the North Gulf Coast to about Yakutat or Icy Bay or Latuya Bay, and then some diminishing icing threats over the Panhandle, and quite an area of light to isolated moderate icing spreading over the central interior southward to Bristol Bay. Jet stream right along the Aleutians, 140 to 155 knots, but south of Kodiak Island takes a turn to the north into the eastern North Gulf Coast tomorrow at 105 knots. 9,000 feet, southwest 40 to 50 knots across the Gulf into the Panhandle, lighter over the interior. 35 to 50 knot winds coming across the Alaska Peninsula, southeast 45, Prince William Sound. Turbulence-wise, Point Hope, Cape Lisburne, moderate chop, Northern Panhandle, moderate chop, and the Alaska Peninsula.
What we're looking at is a legacy of the Ice Age. Permafrost and methane is a time machine. So what we're going to do is walk back in time. We're going to see old carbon, old bones, old environments, and none of those are in equilibrium with today's climate, so that's the problem. That world doesn't exist anymore, and it hasn't for 10,000 years. It was nicely and very delicately separated from this modern warmer climate by about this much moss. And when that moss goes away, whether for fire or for human disturbance or for warming, then all hell breaks loose.
Permafrost. It's maybe the part of the cryosphere that's most out of sight and mind. It's fascinating how it formed in the first place and how it got loaded with so much carbon. In a minute, we'll go back underground with Matthew Sturm from the University of Alaska Fairbanks. But first, let's meet Peter Griffith, NASA's project manager for the Above campaign, which supports more than 70 science projects studying forest and tundra vegetation, wildfires, animals like birds, caribou, and Dall sheep, methane emissions from expanding northern lakes, and the impacts of climate change on people in Alaska, Canada, and around the world. Many of those projects have some direct connection to permafrost.
Permafrost is the hidden cryosphere. It's the permanently frozen soil that surrounds the Arctic, all across Alaska, northern Canada, and then across Eurasia. The ground has been frozen during the ice ages.
During the ice ages, there was not enough snowfall in the drier regions of Alaska and Canada to form glaciers there, so the land was suitable for vegetation.
What happened is that over thousands and thousands of years, all of that plant material got compacted and frozen every winter and buried and pushed down, so that today there's 300 feet deep of frozen water and dead plants and some pieces of dead animals too. Sometimes you find woolly mammoths in the permafrost. But most of it, of the organic matter as we call it in the permafrost, is frozen plant material.
Some of that plant material is now thawing and decaying, releasing its ancient carbon into the atmosphere, sometimes in the form of methane gas bubbling out of expanding northern lakes.
We started this field campaign because the Arctic is the part of the planet that is warming first and fastest. And there are consequences to this for permafrost. So during the Arctic Boreal Vulnerability Experiment, we're studying permafrost with people on the ground, from aircraft flying over the region, and also from satellites in space.
Another way to understand the permafrost is to take a walk below ground with Matthew Sturm and into the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers permafrost tunnel.
And they've dug this tunnel back into the side of a hill about 200 feet, and it goes sort of sloping down so that by the end of the tunnel you're about 100 feet underground, and you're surrounded by bones sticking out of the wall from the steppe bison and mastodons that are frozen in it. There's sticks that are 40,000 years old, that you can touch with your hand. There's grass that's still green, that's tens of thousands of years old because it got frozen, right away, and it's never lost the green color.
But as fascinating as it is to see these relics of an ancient era, or to see a tree split in half by thawing soil, or even to light a ball of methane on fire from under winter ice, at the end of the day, Peter and his colleagues want to know just how much organic matter is frozen in that permafrost, and how fast it might be released.
Currently, we think that there is something on the order of 2 to 3 times as much carbon locked up as frozen organic matter in permafrost as there is carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So releasing all of that organic carbon from permafrost into the atmosphere would be a real game changer. That would be a tremendous transformation of the planet's atmosphere. Now, the good news is that it would take a very, very long time for that to happen. However, we are warming the planet at a rate now that calls into question how quickly is that changing and what the consequences in the near future and in the far future are going to be.
You're in the middle of a field somewhere in California at 4 in the morning. It's sort of surreal in a way because you've put so much time into it for so long, and actually seeing it over there is like, whoa, it's a big deal.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Taking a look at coastal water forecast, we got small craft advisories out for the entire southeast coast. For starting on the south coast, looking at southeast winds 25 knots for Sunday, seas 5 feet, and then 30 knot southerly winds on the central coast, and southeast 30 knots for the north coast. And for Lynn Canal, looking for gale force gusts from the south to 40 knots, otherwise sustained 25 knot winds there, 5 foot seas. South 15 for for Stevens Passage, Clarence Strait, pretty light, south winds at 10 knots. Then for Monday, southeast 15 for Clarence Strait, small craft advisories for the central northern inside waters from the south 25 knots, and small craft advisories continue on the south coast, southerlies 25 to 30 knots, south-southeast 30 knots on the north coast, but seas only at about 6 feet. And for Cook Inlet, south winds 20 knots, 4 to 6 foot seas for Sunday. Good south wind at 30 knots, Kamishak Bay, seas building to 10 feet. Southeast 30 for the eastern North Gulf Coast, and small craft advisories for Prince William Sound tomorrow. East 25 knots, 5 foot seas. East winds 25 knots also for the western North Gulf Coast, and the Barren Islands southwest 25 knot winds with 8 foot seas. And for Monday, gale warnings for the Barren Islands, south winds 35 knots, otherwise southeast 30 to 35 knots with 11 foot seas for the North Gulf Coast, with the gale force winds around Middleton Island there and areas to the east. Prince William Sound, 30 knot winds in the forecast out of the east, with seas building to 6 feet. Northern Cook Inlet, northeast at 15 knots, and north 20 south of the Forelands. Kodiak Island and the area all the way down to Castle Cape, southwest winds tomorrow 25 knots, 8 to 10 foot seas. Alaska Peninsula, southwest 30 knots, 10 to 11 foot seas. And then King Salmon, not even a small craft advisory, just 20 knot winds from the south, 5 foot seas. And that pretty much stays swinging around to the southeast for Bristol Bay on Monday, but only 20 knots. And gale warnings east side of Kodiak Island, southwest 35 knots. Small craft advisories from Cape Sarachef to Sitkinak, west-southwest 30 knots. And the Bering Sea side of the peninsula, southwest at 25. Aleutians, not too bad. Central Aleutians, variable to west, 10 to 15 knots, 8 Akanatka to Amchitka. Kiska to Shimia, north at 15. Unmac Island, west 15 to 20 knots, and then Unalaska Island, stronger small craft advisories there, west-southwest at 30 knots with seas, about 10 feet. And then on Monday, Fox Islands, west winds 20 to 30 knots, 6 to 8 foot seas, lighter winds for 8 Akanatka, out of the west at 15, light variable winds Amchitka, Kiskadeshimia, northwest at 15. Southwest coast, south of Nunivak Island, looking at southeast winds at 20 knots. Yukon Delta coast, small craft advisories. Northeast 25. Same thing for Norton Sound, northeast 25 knots. North 30 knots, St. Lawrence Island. And north 25 for St. Matthew Island, become northwest for the Pribilofs, 25 knots. And for Monday, 10 knot winds from the north for Norton Sound. Otherwise, St. Lawrence Island, north at 30, continues 9 foot seas. Yukon Delta coast, northwest at 20 knots, north 15 there for the Kuskokwim Delta coast, Pribilof Islands, northwest 15, St. Matthew Island, north at 20. And for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, west to northwest, 10 to 15 knots tomorrow, seas 2 to 3 feet. And the central coast looking at a north breeze at 15 knots with 3 foot seas, northeast at 20, western Arctic coast 4 foot seas, Cape Beaufort to Wales, small craft advisories, north winds 25 knots, 5 to 6 foot seas. And for Monday, really light winds at 5 knots, kind of a northerly drift there in the afternoon or during the midday hours there for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast. Light westerlies on the central coast, north 15 on the west side there with 3 foot seas. And then we have small craft advisories for north winds 25 knots from Cape Beaufort to Wales with seas at about 8 feet. And for tonight, first round of rain coming in, of significant rain into the southwest interior, or another round, I should say, and Kodiak Island with that frontal system and the low pressure southeast Bering Sea keeping it windy and wet for the Pribilofs and areas from Atka into the Alaska Peninsula. Rain increases south central Alaska, showers along the North Gulf Coast. And for tomorrow, first low moves up to the eastern North Gulf Coast, moderate to briefly heavy rain ahead of that front, Yakutat, eastern North Gulf Coast, rain increasing on the Panhandle, wet southern Alaska from the central interior Yukon River all the way down to the North Gulf Coast.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.